Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. We also got some news to cover, a few things to talk about that we have on our On Beat segment, which we haven't done in a while, a few games, some shows, stuff like that. And then we have some stuff to look forward to on the horizon. But let's kick things off with our news segment on Beat. On Beat, as I said, is our news segment. We're covering news this time from the past 2 weeks because we had a week off last week. So we're coming back with more news. Not too terribly much more news, though. So, starting things off, the biggest news story of these past 2 weeks. Bob Iger, back effective immediately as CEO of Disney. That leaves Bob Chapek out in the cold.
Bob Chapek was fired, and Bob Iger's back in.
It's hilarious how some people online were like, this is because of all the woke stuff.
No.
The Republican Bob Chapek was let go because of all the woke stuff, and now they're going to bring back the Democrat Bob Iger to combat the wokeness.
People are so stupid. No, it was because people didn't like Bob Chapek.
Yeah. The things I've heard that seem to be the most reliable have to do heavily with things like, for example, the whole Scarlet Johansson thing with Black Widow is being cited as like an example of Chapek's failings, as like one of the things that they're really concerned about. It has nothing to do with them losing money. They've actually done well, especially considering they're in a pandemic, you know?
No,
He had his run as CEO was like in the worst time possible, basically. But not only that, but it's just all the woke, in quotation mark, shit that Disney has put out was all like greenlit under Iger. So it's kind of weird to put that at Chapek's feet. People like seem to think that a TV show is made in like a week or something. But it's huge news. We'll have to see how it pans out. It's really hard to tell where they differed business-wise, like what their differing practices are. It's not, Chapek wasn't like out there making his opinions known like Zaslav or something. He wasn't like making radical changes left, right, and center. So it's hard to see like if we're going to actually see, as like fans of any of the content, if we're going to see any impact from this.
Yeah.
Or if it's just going to be more on the corporate side that we're not really going to have any kind of understanding of, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. All I know is like Bob Iger's run at the top of Disney was monumentally successful. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he's a seasoned veteran. He knows what he's doing. And the important takeaway is that it's only going to be for 2 years while they look for a new successor.
Yes.
He doesn't want to be CEO of Disney permanently.
Yeah, he'd retired. That's why he
retired.
Left.
Yeah, it's clear he's anxious to retire.
Yeah.
But that Bob Chapek just wasn't working out, so.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening with that in the future. In the meantime, Bob Iger's a known entity. I don't think we're going to see any issues. And as fans, I don't think we're really going to see anything that we're going to be able to directly place as like a Bob Iger or Bob Chapek decision either way, you know?
Right, yeah.
Our next piece of news is that Wednesday has bested Stranger Things 4's record as the biggest first week for an English language series on Netflix. It came with 341.2 million hours watched in its first week. This beats Stranger Things 4, which did 335.01 million in its first week. Neither have even come close to the non-English champion, which is Squid Game, which is 571.8 million hours in its first week. That, of course, has to do with the amount of international success that series had.
Yeah.
So, Wednesday, doing good. Certified hit.
That's crazy. I wouldn't have expected it, to be honest.
I'll have more to say about Wednesday later in the podcast, but yeah, I mean, that's a big numbers, you know. That it beat Stranger Things 4's like its later season, you know. Like, I could understand if it beat like the first season of Stranger Things, but for it to beat the most successful season of Stranger Things, which is like a known entity, you know.
Yeah, like right out the gate, like crazy. Like,
yeah, that's big news.
I guess there was a huge demand for a show about a morose goth girl.
When isn't
like,
there?
God damn. Yeah, right? Where are my shows for goths?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, thank God. Yeah.
Every goth watched this show.
Yes.
Including the ancient goths that were like warriors.
Yeah, the Visigoths.
They all tuned in too.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Our next news story, Sonic creator Yuji Naka has been arrested in Japan for insider trading. Not as we imagined for his crimes against humanity with Balan Wonderworld.
I also thought, like, when I saw that, I did double take. I had to double check to make sure, like, it wasn't like an Onion article or hard drive posting it. Because I was like, the hell? It's like, yeah, apparently he did. Apparently, like, he bought shares in the company that was developing Dragon Quest Tact, I believe it is, for mobile before the game was ever announced.
Yeah, because he connections to Square Enix.
Yeah, because he was using his connections to Square Enix, and he heard that company was making a Dragon Quest game, or was about to announce one, and he bought a bunch of shares. And you can't do that, Yuji.
Not a good look.
Yeah, not a good look. Now he's in the same company as Martha Stewart.
Yeah. For anybody who wants to avoid insider trading lawsuits, here's the simple rule. If you're the only person who knows about it, if it's not public knowledge, and you trade based on it, that's insider trading. Bad. Don't do.
Yes. Absolutely.
Our last piece of news before we move on to the trailers that we're going to cover also in our news segment. Our last piece of regular news is also a trailer, oddly enough, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Pack Wave 3 was revealed. It's going to be coming in December, on December 7th. I'm going to quickly run through the tracks and then we can talk about what we think of them. But the tracks revealed are Maple Tree Way from Mario Kart Wii, Rainbow Road from Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS, Blue Lake from Mario Kart GBA. I don't remember what the subtitle of that Mario Kart game is.
Mario Kart Super Circuit, I believe it was.
Yeah, that sounds right. Berlin Byways from Mario Kart Tour, Rock Mountain from Mario Kart 7 from the 3DS, Peach Gardens from Mario Kart DS, London Loop from Mario Kart Tour, and Merry Mountain from Mario Kart Tour. So we got 3 games from Tour. 2 of them are city-based ones, which seems to be the pattern that we're always getting.
It seems like they made a lot of city-based courses for Tour, which makes sense because, like, that's the name of the game. Is Mario Kart Tour.
The Berlin one looks pretty fun.
Yeah. Oh, it does. I also like Merry Mountain. I think Merry Mountain looks really nice. But then again, I'm a sucker for, like, snow Christmas themed, like, stuff in games.
Yeah, so, it's cool to have, like, a Christmas themed stage, you know? Like, at first I'm like, oh, it's winter. And I'm like, oh, no, that's like a whole Christmas theme. That's pretty cool. And well-timed as well, which is nice.
And well-timed. I mean, yeah. I think it's intentional.
I think the only track from all of these that I've played is Peach Gardens.
Oh, really?
Because I never had Mario Kart Wii. I never played Mario Kart 3DS or GBA. And I've only played Tour, like, loosely just to see what it was.
Yeah, I don't think I ever played Super Circuit, to be honest.
Yeah, I never played that.
I never played Mario Kart Wii either. I do have Mario Kart 7 on 3DS. I have played that. I have played a crap load of Mario Kart DS. I remember when that came out. Yeah,
DS was like the last Mario Kart I owned before
It's funny because, like, I got it mostly because when it came out, it was like one of the first worthwhile DS games.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it still has features that I wish would come back to Mario Kart. Like they had that whole, what was it called? Like event mode or something where you had like boss fights and everything. That was so cool.
And the legacy of Mario Kart DS is it was the first party Nintendo published game to feature online play.
Yeah.
That was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. I mean, it, like early Nintendo online games wasn't necessarily really great implementation of online, but
no, yeah.
It was there.
Yeah, it was there, yeah.
Points for existing. Yeah, I think almost all of these stages look pretty good to me. Like I said, the only one I've played before is Peach Gardens, and I like that stage from what I remember of it. It's been a long time. But like everything pretty much looks good. Like even Rock Mountain, which a lot of the mountain stages just kind of look kind of muddy and they're not really that fun, but this one looks like it has a lot of verticality to it, which looks cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like I said, I think Berlin Byway is actually
I think
really
Boo Lake's interesting. I like the Boos. I like the Ghost House stuff in Mario.
Mm-hmm.
So that's already has it for me, but it's also interesting because it's a GBA course, so it's being reinterpreted in 3D.
Oh yeah,
it's
like
always
drastically changed versus the other ones.
Yes. So it's always cool to see them take courses from the 2D games and see how they reinvent those in 3D.
Yeah, I mean, I think Maple Treeway, the first one they showed, looks really cool too. It kind of reminds me of, God, what's that stage? It was in the first round of DLC before the pre-Deluxe Mario Kart 8 DLC. There's that one
you're
like
asking
water.
Me to remember ancient history.
Well, I'm not asking you to remember the name, but remember that there's that one that's kind of like a water slide almost through most.
Oh yeah.
Like that Maple Treeway kind of is like a giant tree, and Maple Treeway kind of reminds me of that, like at least aesthetically, which is a really cool stage. I think this looks like probably the most interesting wave we've seen.
Oh yeah, I think it has a bunch of good tracks, or at least good looking tracks, so can't wait for it to come out.
Yeah, definitely. This looks like the most exciting wave of the waves we've gotten so far. And December 7th, that's gonna be out in time for when we're recording our next podcast, but we probably will not talk about it because we have a big podcast next week. So that'll be delayed a bit. But yeah, it's coming out in a week from today, so that's exciting as well. Now, on to our trailer segment of our news segment. We're going to start things off with White Noise. This is I saw a few pictures of it, saw like the early teases for it. It looks kind of interesting. I actually think this looks really good.
It does. Oh yeah.
I'm excited. I like the idea of this kind of apocalyptic-like event occurring with like this family that's just kind of bickering. And it's almost like the Vacation movies, but like with an apocalypse in the background or something.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's like a dark comedy.
Yeah.
Where it looks like, so yeah, it looks interesting. Adam Driver looks great in this.
He's killing it as like a dad who's just trying to kind of keep his family together.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really kind of like detached kind of dad way almost. I think it looks pretty cool. We got to see our first trailer for That 90s Show. So that was a little interesting. We got to see Red and Kitty back together again.
Red and Kitty. They were good. The rest of it was god awful. I don't know, like maybe I actually have to see an episode of this, but ooh man, Red and Kitty are great, and then like the rest of it just looks terrible. I don't know.
To me, it just looks like That 70s Show. I think what the problem is that comedies moved a lot away from the aesthetics of shows like That 70s Show. So now, like, kind of going back to that same kind of aesthetic, it doesn't work.
I think the issue is That 70s Show, the way the characters were written and depicted, they were all like relatable to some degree, you know, and the cast played well off of each other. And yeah, it's hard to judge that based on like this very short trailer. But man, they just did not show any of that in here. One of the problems with the trailer is like they only have the main kid with actual dialogue in this trailer, and like the rest of the kids are just there. So it doesn't really give you a sense, and it's just like, it was a bad trailer. Let's just say that.
It was like a first trailer, you know, like, we have to kind of actually see what the kids are like, what their chemistry is like, and what kind of themes they're going to play on, because That 70s Show was heavily based on like 70s nostalgia and the way they kick things in, and the attention to that, even having Tommy Chong as like playing a character on the show and stuff.
Oh
like
yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with That 90s Show as a parallel to that. Like, what 90s cultural things are they going to throw in there? And if they do it right, I could like it a lot more than That 70s Show, because, you know, my teenage years were in the 90s, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That was my teenage years, was the 90s, 95.
Yeah.
I was a teenager.
I expect to see some Nine Inch Nails t-shirts.
Nine Inch Nails.
Some grunge elements.
Some
all needs to be
PlayStation.
in there. Yeah. I don't know when it takes place in the 90s. Might be too early for PlayStation.
I think it's 90. If it's 95, it's like, that's the year.
Yeah.
Like,
there should definitely
95.
be some kind of gaming element to it.
Anything before 95 is like, that's Super Nintendo and Genesis.
Yeah, yeah. They should just make it like everybody's really excited. Like, one of the characters is really excited for like the 3DO or something.
Yeah, exactly. The character's like really hyped for Atari Jaguar. I'd give it some respect there. I'd be like, damn, okay.
The next trailer we got was for a movie called The Honeymoon. Oddly enough, we're going to be talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and one of the new characters in that is Cosmo the dog, who we'd seen before, but now has a voice, voiced by Maria Bakalova, and she's in this movie, The Honeymoon. She's the bride. So that was kind of interesting to see her in that, you know, with what we're talking about this week. But I think the most interesting thing, and I said this before to you before we started recording, is that this really feels like it was a Simon Pegg / Nick Frost movie that, you know, got shelved at a studio somewhere, like the script got shelved, and then they pulled it out and said, why didn't we ever make this? And they said, contact Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and they're like, we're in our 50s?
Yeah. Yeah, because it really feels like that. Yeah, because like the one character there really comes off as like a Nick Frost style character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is a buddy comedy. So this isn't like a romantic comedy. This is a buddy comedy. Because like the main character, he gets married to his sweetheart or whatever. They go to Italy for a honeymoon and they get wrapped up with this Italian drug lord who holds her captive while he charges like the groom and his best friend with selling a bunch of cocaine.
Yeah, and it's just the misadventures of them trying to do that, with the one guy being clearly incompetent and the other guy not being willing to kind of let go of his friend. That's kind of more of a problem than he seems to is seemingly worth, which is very like, has that, like we said, very like Shaun of the Dead vibes as far as like the buddy relationship, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly.
So that is The Honeymoon. That looks pretty good. I actually would be eager to see that. I loved those Simon Pegg, Nick Frost movies, so it'd be cool to see something like that again. Next trailer we got Cocaine Bear.
Oh god, yes.
You've seen Sharknado, but have you seen Cocaine Bear?
This is a bit more competently made and produced than Sharknado.
Yeah.
So if you can't tell, Cocaine Bear is a comedy. It's really like, the idea is that drug runners lost a bunch of cocaine in the woods. The same drug people from the Honeymoon movie, incidentally. This is the sequel. They dropped some cocaine in the woods, and I believe it was, they said, what was it, Tennessee?
I think so, yeah.
And a bear gets into it. And the bear goes insane and goes on a Cujo / Jaws style killing spree.
Well, like specifically for more cocaine. So he seems to be targeting people that are either carrying the cocaine or have cocaine on them somehow, like it spilled on them or got,
and then most of the focus is about like the absolutely bizarre cast of characters caught up in this.
Yeah.
Like,
as this bear's like almost like a natural disaster.
Yes.
A force of nature just kind of coming after them.
And all these people are like weird and quirky in some way. So like, it's bloody, it's gory, and it's a comedy. And they're really leaning into the comedy aspect of the premise.
Best of all, the music they were playing in the trailer, White Lines. Awesomely fitting for the cocaine theme.
Yes, exactly. It looks fun.
Yep. The last trailer we're covering is the Super Mario Brothers movie. Besides just the trailer, we also got 2 TV spots. One a Spanish language spot and one an English spot from, I think, the Netherlands or something. I don't know. But we got 2 commercials. We got a new trailer. They did another one of those Nintendo Directs for the movie like they did before. And we got this new trailer for it. This feels more like a trailer than like the last one, which was just kind of a full scene and then like some quickly patched together clips. And this feels more like a trailer. It starts out similarly and it starts out with a scene, but then it kind of like, it feels like more of a trailer than the last one. It gives us more of a sense of what the movie's about. And the clips had a surprising amount of content that I didn't expect to see. I thought it would just be rehashed stuff that we'd already kind of seen, but it was mostly completely new material in the commercials. So this is looking really good, like surprisingly good.
Oh my god, yes. Like, I am super hyped for this movie. You can't believe, like, I watched that trailer, I was grinning like an idiot through the whole thing. This is a movie I wanted when I was a kid, when I was 10. Not the live action movie. That was a huge disappointment. Like, even back then.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, what the hell is this? This is the movie I wanted. I remember before, like, the Bob Hoskins Super Mario movie, after I played Super Mario Bros. For the first time, I would be in class, I would daydream about what an animated Mario movie would be like.
So what you're saying is that you dreamed Chris Pratt into existence.
He exists through my mind powers. I'm so sorry, world. This not only meets those daydreams, but exceeds them to like an absurd level. They absolutely nailed it, in my opinion.
It's really cool. I like that they're kind of flipping some of the dynamics. It looks like rather than Princess Peach being kidnapped, that she's part of the group going to save, it looks like Luigi, who is kidnapped, or, you know, that might be something that happens earlier on, and it's more about them just trying to stop Bowser rather than a kidnapping being the central plot. But that's cool. That's interesting. Even the kind of comedic bits that you expect in these animated movies like this, that sometimes are kind of cringy, like came across actually pretty well. I love when Toad, when they're confronted with having to go out and face off against Bowser, and one of the Toads is like, but we're adorable.
Yeah. We're adorable. We got some Mario versus Donkey Kong action.
Yeah, we didn't get to hear Donkey Kong talk.
No.
Seth Rogen was one of the celebrities introducing the trailer, but we didn't actually get to see his character speak in it. But we got to see Donkey Kong, and there's other Kongs in it as well. We saw
because there's the whole Kong kingdom.
Yeah.
So they established like it's a kingdom. There's a lot of cool Easter eggs in it too for fans. The scene where Mario's fighting Donkey Kong, we see like Mario launch into a jump punch that's like one of his signature moves from Smash Brothers. We got a whole segment at the end of the trailer, which is Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
Rainbow Road.
Immediately, first thing that came to my mind is like, oh, I hope that whatever wave of the DLC comes out around the time this movie comes out, that they planned ahead and have like a track based on this movie or something.
Right. Well, we got like an entire year's worth of DLC for Mario Kart 8, so it'd be really fun if one of those tracks was Rainbow Road from Mario Bros. The movie, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think if they don't, that's just a wasted opportunity.
Yes, I agree.
So
get on that,
cool.
Nintendo.
Yeah, serious. Get your ass together. Get your ass in gear. But yeah, this looks good. The commercial footage looked good. I love the bit with the pipes.
Oh yeah.
The one commercial is hilarious. Yeah, I'm digging this. I really want to see this movie. I was surprised because I was going to watch this movie, period. It's Mario. I was just going to watch it, you know? But my expectations were pretty low. It was kind of more just like, I'll enjoy it because of the nostalgia, but I'll probably cringe a little bit. And this is looking way better than I think it has any right looking.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
So that is our news segment. And now we're going to move on to On Tap.
What we've been watching, what we've been playing, what's on tap.
On Tap is our segment where we talk about things we've been watching or playing, but not in spoilers. This is not our full spoiler segment, so we're just going to kind of briefly go over certain things about the things we've been watching and playing. We haven't done this segment in a while, and we're bringing it back. We got a few things to talk about. I'm going to kick things off with Wednesday. Did you watch Wednesday at all? Did you watch any of it?
I have not watched any of it yet.
So Wednesday is a pretty good show. It's not great.
It's the
pretty
prequel
good
to Thursday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's a pretty good show, but Jenna Ortega, who plays Wednesday Addams in this version of the show, or in this version of those characters, is probably the best Wednesday ever. Like, even beating Christina Ricci's character from the movies, who seemed like untoppable. Just seemed like she nailed it so perfectly, and I think Jenna Ortega bested her. And that's like surprising. This is like one of the best role matches I've ever seen in anything. It's one of those things. It's like when Patrick Stewart was cast as Professor X, and it was like, holy shit, like that was the fan casting everybody wanted, and it lived up to every expectation and exceeded them.
I mean, Jenna Ortega's great, so.
Yeah, and she's amazing as Wednesday Addams. She just pulls it off perfectly. I described it, I think the best way to look at it is that it's like Christina Ricci's version of the character, but it's like that character mated.
Well, this version's like
I was gonna say
older than the version Christina Ricci was.
Yeah, but I was gonna say it's like
yeah.
that character somehow mated with April Ludgate from Parks and Recreation, who is Aubrey Plaza's character.
Oh yeah.
And they had a love child, and this is that character, but like has grown up and learned her own tricks and traits as well, and it's like perfect. It's got the same kind of like emotional detachment, but it's like the emotional attachment is mostly in the mouth, and you can still see see some emotional reaction in the eyes, but it's like very muted, and it's masterful. It's just a masterful portrayal. It's one of the best casting and performance for an actor to play. It's like she was born for the role. It's just perfect. That's like the best way I can describe it. So it's one of those things where like the show itself is pretty good, but you watch it for her performance as Wednesday, which is just spot on. So I won't say too much more than that, just that if you like Wednesday Addams at all, you need to watch the Netflix series because there's a lot of Wednesday Addams in it. Next up, we had a little indie game come out that you've been playing, and you're gonna fill us in a little bit about that little indie game.
I don't know, it's a bit obscure. I don't know if people are gonna. No, I've been playing Pokemon. I've been playing the new Pokemon, and I gotta say I've been really enjoying it. They took a new tech with this game where it's the first fully open world Pokemon game, and they beefed up the amount of stuff that you have to do in the game, because instead of just having one path, which is like the gym leader quest to get the 8 gym badges and challenge the Elite Four, you now have 2 other paths to go with that, which is the Path of Titans, which is hunting and tracking down Titan Pokemon, and then you have the Starfall path, which tasks you with defeating this game's evil team, which is Team Starfall. And so there's 5 each of those, so with the 8 gym leaders, it's like 18 badges in this game. So,
can you do all of that like in one run, or is it like something where you have to kind of choose and stick to one?
You could do it all in one run. In fact, the game encourages you to do it all in one run. In fact, from what I read, I'm not there yet, but from what I understand, and they kind of hint at this early, is like the more you do, the more it affects the end game.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of like want to do it all. But I mean, that makes for like a much, in my opinion, more robust adventure than Sword and Shield, which I felt was kind of slight. There wasn't really that much to do, and it was like super linear.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already enjoying this a lot more. Yes, there are the technical issues, unfortunately, that bog it down. I haven't had like any of the crazy funny glitches happen to me in the game. I had like my ride disappear a couple times. I've experienced the slowdown and the bad textures, and I had the game like just fully crash at one point, just once though. Other than that, like it's been pretty fine. Like I haven't been bothered by much. Really.
It doesn't sound too far out of bounds from what you'd expect from a lot of big open world games.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I mean, you played like Skyrim when it came out or something, and there was all sorts of shit going on.
Yeah,
you know?
so there's Skyrim.
Cyberpunk's one of my favorite games ever, and that game was a mess.
Cyberpunk had issues. Elden Ring had issues at launch. It still does. Like, and people are rightfully, I'm not gonna say like it's unjustified, but it's also like compounded by the fact that this is Game Freak doing an open world game, and Game Freak's productions tend to be technically lacking to begin with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's also, I think, part of the reaction is because it's Nintendo, and
yes.
Nintendo's like known for a certain level of polish. I mean, that was one of the amazing things about like Breath of the Wild when it came out. Not only was it a great open world game, but it was surprisingly low on glitches for an open world game, you know, like shockingly.
Yes.
And I think that with that, people just kind of have this expectation, but Nintendo doesn't make Pokemon. Game Freak does.
Game Freak makes
Pokemon, you know? And from what you're saying, it doesn't really sound too far out of bounds. I mean, this doesn't sound even as bad as like early days Skyrim or Cyberpunk or something, you know? So if people can forgive that, or even like Witcher 3, you know, when that first came out, I think it sounds perfectly forgivable, unless maybe some people have had some extreme glitches that affected their saves or something. I don't know if anybody's had any issues with that, but
no, but in case it happens, there is a backup option.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do like a button code at the title screen, and then it unlocks restore backup option. So like even then, like there's a way to recover your save. But I mean, if you have autosave turned on, which it's on by default, it's not much of a problem, because normally you're saved by the autosave. So
that's good.
Yeah.
So let's move on to a game that we both put some time into, and that is Bayonetta 3. What are your kind of general thoughts about Bayonetta 3?
I'm enjoying it. Really enjoying it. I mean, it's Bayonetta. It's more Bayonetta. I think like the story is obviously outlandish as they are, but like one thing I like about the story in this one is seeing like all the different universe versions of Bayonetta.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was cool like early on when you see the one like a quarter way into the game and you actually get to play as her and fight the boss before she inevitably gets killed.
The Tokyo one.
Yeah, the one like she's gone the roller skates.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. The only thing I'm not so much enjoying is, like, the genre levels, which, I mean, they're fine, but
the timer on that annoys me. I just don't like time limits on games that much, unless they're like very short segments. Cause I think like, especially like in that, like you could see all the stuff in these distant areas and it's like, oh, I want to check that or I want to check that. And then you're like looking at your time and going, I don't have time to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you can get like time.
Yeah.
But
even still, like that just, it bothers me. I don't like that. It's that, to me, it feels like someone's standing over your shoulder. Like I don't mind it in a game like Metroid, for example, where it's like at the end of the game, you just have to escape.
But it's funny
you've already
to me,
cleared everything. It's just about getting out, you know?
It's funny to me because it's not even like a big issue because like the levels themselves are so short that you hardly like really run out of time to do it.
It's still, you can't explore it though. Like it's,
right.
There's no problem getting through the level, but it like they put all this stuff in front of you and they're like, look at all the stuff you can explore, but you can't. Here's the time limit. And that's annoying to me. It's really annoying. It's like, you know, if you're going to give me bonuses based on getting it under a time, that's cool and all. If you're going to do something like Metroid does, where I've already gotten all my stuff and it's just about escaping and that's it, and I've already done my exploration, then that works. That's fine. But otherwise I just hate time limits on games. It feels like someone's looking over my shoulder the whole time I'm playing and it's uncomfortable and I don't like it. So I think the genre levels, that's the worst part of the genre levels, is that aspect of it. Besides the fact that you don't really have much you can do in those levels, as for a game as robust as Bayonetta with combat options and stuff, there's surprisingly little you can actually do combat-wise in those areas. But yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of issues with this game. I still enjoy it a lot. I just feel like it's a big step down from Bayonetta 2, which I think kind of perfected the gameplay and the setups for everything. And there's things I definitely like about Bayonetta 3, but then there's other things like, is it just me or do you feel like you're just constantly fighting people's shins? It's like I'm just sitting here attacking bosses, or not even
because
bosses,
like the giant enemies.
Yeah, it's like every cluster of enemies you fight has a giant enemy in it.
Because I think they want to encourage you to use your demon summon more often in
which
this
I
game.
Don't like using.
Yeah, because of the fact that you can like summon your demon now during fights and stuff. I think that's the reason, is they're trying to encourage you to use that more.
I like using the summons as like accents. I like using it at the end of a combo for an auto attack, or for like an occasional thing, like if there's somebody coming at you and you need to block them off while you handle another threat or something like that. Like especially with when you're using Viola and you can still move your character around, it's like I like it for that kind of stuff. Like that works for me. But like I just don't. It's not as fun. The combat isn't as fun when you're controlling the big beast as it is when you're just moving around. You don't move as fast. You don't have as many options. It's just not as fun. So it kind of feels like weird that that's kind of being forced onto your play style, or you're just attacking.
I mean, it's not necessarily forced, because you can defeat those enemies without it, but
by becoming the Shin assassin.
Exactly. You know, Achilles heel.
That's an issue. I think I like the weapons in the game, but I miss being able to like mix and match sets. I think that was like a huge thing I loved in 2. I liked, like, one of my favorite things that happened in Bayonetta 2 was when you get the chainsaws, and I said, oh, I wonder what happens if I put these on my feet. And then I put them on my feet and you skate with them. And there's there's something like that. It was one of the first weapon sets you get is kind of like that in this game too. But like it's not your whole set. It's just that one just on your feet. You can put other things on other parts, and I miss that. It feels like a big limitation. And a lot of the big weapons, they're really cool looking and they're really interesting as far as being really wacky and stuff, but they just kind of like get in the way. Like they're too big, so they block your view in the camera, and they're just like kind of obnoxious in that way. It annoys me. So like I like never use like the train weapon or the big blaster you get like early on, you know, because it just blocks like the whole screen when you're trying to play. It's kind of like the kaiju, I guess. I don't like that. And I'm having a lot of issues with the camera system in the game where like I'm trying, cause they put in a lot of segments where you have to kind of do like platforming to get around, like to catch like these, like the frog, the cat and the crow, for example. You have to do like really well-timed maneuverability to catch those things. And sometimes I'll be doing that and it's like I'm just dashing off in a straight angle and then the camera like whips around so that it's like facing my character and I can't see what's ahead. And it's like, what the fuck? And it'll just happen over and over again every time I try it. And it gets really annoying. So it's like, to me, it sounds like I'm being overly negative, but to me, Bayonetta 3 feels like a massive like deluge of like crazy big ideas that don't necessarily always work. It feels like the least polished of any of the Bayonettas to me, but like the most ambitious. Does that make sense? Or
yeah, that makes sense.
So I still like it. To me, it almost feels more like a Suda51 game than like a Platinum game. I love Suda51 games, but it almost feels more like that, you know?
Right.
Where like when you play a Suda51 game, you know there's going to be all sorts of wacky shit. And that's kind of the big part. That's the big draw to play it. But you also know there's going to be a lot of problems, you know? And you just come to accept that. And it kind of feels more like that. And I think I wanted something more polished like Bayonetta 2.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a cool game still. I like certain things. I know some people didn't like Viola. I think I actually really liked Viola.
Oh, I like Viola.
I don't like the block mechanic for the witch time.
Yeah, it takes some getting used to. I'm pretty decent at it, but then again, like, I've had practice parrying in like other games, like
yeah. I think part of the problem is that it switches you back and forth. So like you'll be using Bayonetta on one stage and get used to the dodge mechanic, and then you switch to Viola and it's like your timing's off.
Also, I think like the timing for the dodge on most enemies is easier, but like getting the timing for the block on some of the enemies is like a lot harder.
Yeah. There's a pet peeve of mine that's in this game, which is, I had mentioned to you before we start recording, I hate sand levels. I hate deserts in general.
I hate sand.
Yeah. I hate quicksand, where it forces you to move like really slowly and like button mash. It's just annoying. It's not fun. And not only is that there, but then you also have these new enemies. A lot of them have this like weird goo mechanic where they turn into goo and then you get stuck in the goo, and it's really annoying. It's like, it's not fun. It's just annoying. It's like, oh, they're turning into goo again. Now I have to like make a mad dash to get out of there. And then based on my weapon choice, I really don't have many options to attack, or my character is gonna move forward on their own mid combo and I'm gonna end up stuck in the goo again. It ends up becoming really annoying. But besides that, I think one of my only other gripes, I've heard some people complain about like performance issues. I've hit a few of those, nothing too bad, nothing that has really hindered it for me. For me, I've had more issues with the camera than with the frame rate. But the other issue I have is there's like a really ugly, like dithering effect they're using for transparency that they used to do something different in Bayonetta 2. It was like a more like general transparency effect that worked good. And it's like they ran out of resources and they had to backstep to like an N64 level transparency effect, and it sucks. It just looks really ugly, and it's like, yeah, I'm still enjoying the game. I'm towards the end. I got like 3 or 4 stages left or something, but Bayonetta 3. There you go. I thought this might be a Game of the Year contender for me, but I don't think it's going to be at the end, based on what I've played so far. Still enjoyed it. And the last thing we're going to talk about on the On Tap segment is the new It anime, which is Chainsaw Man.
Oh.
Surprisingly good.
I don't know why I thought like there was like an It anime.
No, I mean It, as in like, you know, it's the It thing. It's in the moment.
Twitter can confirm that for me, because I see like a lot of Chainsaw Man content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chainsaw Man is surprisingly good. It's graphic, it's gross, it's oftentimes juvenile in its humor and stuff like that. But there's like an underlying deepness beyond that like when you get to it, it's really surprising and interesting. There's a scene in it fairly early on that I think a lot of people might just brush right past that kind of blew me away. There's the main character, he's kind of like, he's sad that he had this moment. It was like the first time he basically touched a girl's boobs. And he's really sad that it didn't live up to his expectations. And he's talking about this to this other character, and this character kind of gives him a lesson in intimacy. And it's like fascinating. It's so well done. It's so interesting. It's a very deep character. character moment. And it's not something you'd expect coming from a character complaining about boobs not living up to his expectations.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Chainsaw Man, it's great. It just had a really shocking episode, the last episode. I can't wait to see what ends up happening after that. I'm not going to get into it because that's spoilers. But yeah, it's a really good show. And it's also interesting. Every ending is a new animation.
That's
so
cool.
Typically in anime, you have like an opening and an ending that like lasts for like a season. And then they have another opening and another ending. This has every episode has a different ending. So that's kind of cool. And it reflects kind of the mood or what's happening in the story. It's really cool. So Chainsaw Man, highly recommended. I know for sure it's on Crunchyroll. I think it's one of those anime that's pretty much on everything. Might even be on Netflix. I'm pretty sure it's on Hulu. It's just one of those ones that's everywhere because they just want everybody to watch it. That is it for our On Tap segment. And now we're moving on to On the Horizon.
On the horizon.
On the Horizon is where we talk about stuff that's coming up in the next week. And we only have a few things coming up. We have His Dark Materials debuting on Monday, December 5th on HBO. This is the third season, I believe, of the series. Doom Patrol coming back on Thursday, December 8th on HBO Max. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio coming out finally on Friday, December 9th on Netflix. Not to be confused with the lesser Pinocchio movie.
Yes.
On Disney+. Dragon Quest Treasures coming on Friday, December 9th to the Nintendo Switch. I forgot this existed for a second there.
Oh, yeah, same.
And The Whale coming on Friday, December 9th to theaters. That is the Darren Aronofsky,
And
Brendan Fraser movie. So that's it for On the Horizon. Next up, we have full spoilers. This week on Full Spoilers, we're going to be talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, written and directed by James Gunn, came to Disney+. This is the second special presentation MCU thing we've gotten on Disney+ after Werewolf by Night, but a very different kind of special. Like, Werewolf by Night was just like a short movie, kind of. And this is very much like a Christmas special. It has a very different feeling to it.
yes, this is James Gunn's tribute to those Christmas specials that they would put out back in the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, like the Star Wars Christmas special.
Yeah, like the Star Wars Christmas special. Yeah, this is James Gunn's version of the Star Wars Christmas special.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I enjoyed it. It was heartwarming. It was charming. It was great. It's more of a buddy comedy between Drax and Mantis than anything.
Mm-hmm.
They get the bulk, I say like the major bulk of the screen time in this.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird because I don't know if I would compare this favorably next to a lot of the other MCU stuff that's come out, but like I've heard people describe it, and I think it's the best word to describe it as just delightful.
Yes,
and that's what it
delightful.
is. It's not necessarily
all it needed
great.
to be.
It doesn't like blow you away. It doesn't.
Listen,
it's just delightful.
This didn't have to move the story forward. This didn't have to expand on the lore. This didn't have to need to be a spectacle. It just needed to be a fun, feel-good Christmas special, and I think it delivers on that.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. It's like, that's what makes it delightful and not necessarily like spectacular or mind-blowing or anything, but it's delightful. It fits into that mold, and if that's what you're coming in expecting, then you're gonna get that. And
right.
If you're not expecting that, then I don't know what you were expecting.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know what you were. This isn't Guardians 3. That's coming out next year.
We got a few big setup pieces for Guardians 3, which like are it's kind of nice because that just means that they're not going to have to set those things up in the movie in Guardians 3. So we see Cosmo is now hanging out with Rocket.
We got confirmation that the Guardians actually purchased Nowhere.
Yeah,
they're actually running. Yeah, so they're actually running Nowhere now.
Yeah, and that's interesting on two fronts. One, that we have that bit of information, but also that the Collector's still alive, I guess?
Yeah.
I thought Thanos killed him and Infinity War, but I guess he's still alive.
It appeared that way, but I guess not. I don't know.
And then the biggest, like, reveal we got, and we got it fairly early on, and like the most just like out there kind of like open statement that just kind of would slip right past you, and you just kind of go, wait, what? Wait, what did they say? And that's that Mantis is Peter Quill's sister.
Yes.
So, I mean, that seems like an obvious possibility, of course, but like to have it just the way it was revealed was just such like a offhand kind of, blink and you miss it kind of revelation.
Well,
and that's kind of interesting that it happened that way.
She first, she's talking to Drax about it because Drax is the only other person at the beginning that knows about it.
Yeah.
It's funny because, like, they do a joke where she ate, like...
The Zagnuts?
The Zagnuts, thank you, yes. I knew it was some nonsense word. She ate the Zagnuts, and there's a whole thing about that, like, Drax is like, well, there would be Zagnuts if you did eat them all, and she's like, you're the only person who cares about that.
Yeah, I love the part where, like, after they decide, the main plot of this movie, and it's in the trailer, so it's not a big deal, we can just kind of say it right out, is that they're trying to abduct Kevin Bacon as the perfect Christmas gift for Peter.
Yeah, so that's the plot. So, yeah, the plot is...
When they come up with that plot, like, they're trying to come up with what they're gonna do as, like, a perfect gift for Peter, and Drax is like, well, we could have given him the Zagnuts, but you ate them all. And
yeah, that's
like,
it.
Shut up about the Zagnuts!
Yeah, shut up about the Zagnuts, yeah.
I like that we're getting a different side of Mantis, because before she was so demure and so, like, I don't know, like, she just took whatever was thrown at her. And so that was kind of like part of the humor of, like, her interactions with Drax in the last movie, was like Drax talking about how ugly she is and her just taking that at face value without ever questioning her. It's just like a weird little dynamic they had. And here we're actually seeing her kind of like standing up for herself in a way that she didn't before.
Well,
in a few moments,
she see
like,
we get the sense that, they've spent more time together. Their relationship has evolved because they're more familiar with each other.
Yes. So it's really cool to get that element of them in this.
Yes. It was really funny, like, when they go to Earth, and, like, Drax sees, like, the guy dressed in, like, the GoBot's costume or whatever. I don't know, like, what's called. It's like Drax has some sort of grudge against that person, or, like, that race, I guess. And so, like, even though it's not real, like, Drax, like, you see him in the background in one scene beating on that guy.
Yeah. Because they show it. They show his hostility towards it, and Mantis explains the problem. And then they go in through like a montage, basically, of them. They're in front of like Man's Chinese Theater, which if you've ever been there, there's like a bunch of people like dressed up as characters from movies. There's like Jack Sparrows and Spider-Man and like all these different people, Superman, that hang out there, and basically they're busking for money. They take photos and stuff with people, and they get paid by tourists to do that, And that's like a really kind of famous spot for that to happen. And so they're walking by there, and the first thing that happens is Mantis sees Captain America, person dressed up as Captain America, and she yells, "Steve!" and runs and jumps on him.
Yes.
And freaks him out, and he runs away. And then somebody approaches them to take pictures and start taking pictures. And then you have the scene where Mantis reveals that Drax has this vendetta against the GoBots. And then, like, there's another scene where you see, like, Mantis, and she's holding all this money that she's gotten from busking, and there's all these people around her, and it kind of pans to the side, and in the background you see Drax, like, beating up the guy that was in the GoBot costume.
Yeah.
They go to a bar, they waste all their money immediately. That was pretty funny. They end up finally getting a map to the homes of the stars, and that's how they end up finding Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, because they're asking everybody, like, they see if they know where Kevin Bacon is.
Yeah, and so they end up there's a big chase scene. They end up abducting Kevin, and Mantis uses her powers to make him basically okay with going with them. And they return back, and when they kind of do this whole show to like kind of, make Star-Lord happy, because that's the whole reason they're doing this, is they're bringing Kevin Bacon back as a gift to Star-Lord so that Peter feels okay.
He will be happy
after Gamora
Christmas.
Being gone and all dealing with that and being sad.
Yeah, because after Christmas. Yeah, they bring Kevin Bacon there, and eventually Kevin Bacon gets into a holiday spirit with them after, like, being freaked out. And yeah, it ends great. We get, like, a bunch of cool Christmas songs throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, like, yeah, it wasn't anything mind-blowing, but it was fun. And it's what it needed to be. The thing, it's only 44 minutes. It's not long at all. It's not feature length.
Yeah, it's just a Christmas special.
Yes.
So they have animated scene that opens the movie that's about
it's
Yondu
rotoscope
and Peter.
too.
Yeah.
Which is really neat. So
it's
like they actually had Michael Rooker and stuff on the set. You know, they rotoscoped them.
Mm-hmm. So it's really cool they do this anime, and it has like that like 70s almost like heavy metal look to it, you know?
Yeah.
Like the movie heavy metal, not the music.
Yeah.
It almost has that kind of a look to it, and it that's the opens the movie, and then it ends the movie.
It closes
as well.
it, yeah. Because the movie opens on, you know, like the tale of like this Christmas Peter had, you know, Kraglin's telling this tale about this Christmas Peter had with Yondu and Kraglin, where like Yondu like craps all over the concept of Christmas, kicks over the tree, and paints like this really sad story about like this awful Christmas like Peter went through. And then at the end of the movie, it's bookended. Peter says, you know, like Kraglin doesn't know the whole story. And we see like, and we get this really touching like ending to that where like Yondu comes back and he picks up his gift from Peter and then he gives Peter a gift, you know, and it shows them like, you know, really bonding.
Mm-hmm. It's that some people have complained about that. They've said it kind of ruins the ending of Guardians 2 with Peter realizing that Yondu was his father figure all along. I'm like, if his experiences with Yondu were miserable up until that final moment, then Yondu wouldn't have been a father figure all along. Like that would make sense.
Exactly. It wouldn't have made sense for Yondu to be nonstop miserable to Peter.
Yeah.
Until that point, yeah.
So
like,
I don't think it ruins it at all. I think it
there had to have been like some actual relationship there to begin with. Like, come on.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. People are just like really obtuse. Like the people just can't. Some people just can't understand nuance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's not a problem with this and the ending of Guardians 2. No, James Gunn knows what he's doing in the writing department, believe me.
Yep. So let's talk about some of the songs in here, because there's a few originals and there's some interesting kind of deep cuts, basically. The opening scene is using Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues. The chase scene when they're chasing Kevin Bacon is using I Want an Alien for Christmas from Fountains of Wayne. The big reveal when Peter's like walking and nowhere's all lit up with Christmas lights and everything is using Christmas Time by the Smashing Pumpkins, which is interesting. And the two new songs there's the one that Kevin Bacon sings, and Here It Is Christmas Time, which was a pretty good song. But the best song, the song that's going to be the one that the special's known for, the one that's going to probably end up being like a big hit, and this is probably going to be played all over the place during Christmas, was the first, like big musical number scene in the special, which is, I don't know what Christmas is, but Christmas Time is here.
Yes, which was
a straight banger.
Just a straight banger, just hilarious lyrics.
Yeah.
Really funny gimmick
Mrs.
of
Claus on working the pole.
Really funny gimmick of like having like it being sung to Peter and Peter like be like, no, that's not it. Like
he didn't have a flamethrower.
Yeah, he did have a flamethrower. That was a great sequence. Again, like, that's another thing Guardians is known for. It's known for James Gunn's musical choices, and this is no different.
That's just James Gunn in general, because it was like the same thing. Yeah. Like Peacemaker had a lot of like music in it, you know, a lot of like interesting music choices.
Yes, it did. People remember mostly like the opening scenes, but I think like Guardians from the start was more pointedly tied to music than most other things.
Yeah, it was like central to the plot with like the music that his mother had given him and stuff. So it was, you know, his awesome mix, which was like literally the soundtrack to the Guardians movies, or like Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mix Volume 1, which is what he had in the movie. So it feels like you have the same tape that Peter was listening to. You have that, you know? That's kind of like the way the music is handled in Guardians. So it makes it like a deep personal connection to that. It works really well. I love the choices here. And like I said, the new tracks are straight bangers, especially I Don't Know What Christmas Is, but Christmas Time Is Here is both like hilarious lyrics, but also like has the right sentiment in it and a great hook to it as well. It's a straight banger. I'm sure we're going to be hearing that all around the place as we approach Christmas time. But yeah, so that's the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. Another hit, man, because the last special was the Halloween special, Werewolf by Night, and that was a straight banger as well. So
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right, so that's it for our show. Next week, we are doing Advocates of Great Entertainment, and again, we are going to be doing Christmas movies, specials, and episodes. So last year, we each picked one of our favorite Christmas movies, and we each watched that and discussed it. This time, we've broadened the category out a little bit. I'm not even sure if we're going to be using that, though, but it's to Christmas movies, Christmas specials, and like episodes of TV shows that are Christmas themed. Did you make your pick yet?
Yes.
So tell me your pick.
That now? Okay, so I'm choosing Gremlins for my pick. You can find it on HBO Max and Peacock. Say I'm cheating, but it takes place during Christmas. It counts.
I think that's perfectly fine.
That's my stance.
I think those are my favorite Christmas movies, are movies that aren't necessarily 100% about Christmas, but they take place in that season, and some of the kind of like general ideas carry over, like maybe a bittersweet tone, or like, you know, a moment about family at the end, or something like that. Those always are my favorite Christmas movies anyways, you know?
Right, yeah. It's just it's a fun, like, 80s monster movie. Like, they don't make them like that anymore. I recommend it. Highly recommend it.
So that is Will's pick. My pick is going to be Edward Scissorhands, which is available on Disney+.
Nice.
And when we were trying to pick our movies last year, this was one of my top picks, but I think it was moving around because of the rights. So it wasn't on Disney+ yet. I think it was kind of confusing where it was, so I didn't end up picking that. But one of the reasons I want to pick it is that it's a classic Christmas movie, and Will said he hadn't watched it. So I'm like, are you kidding me? You haven't watched Edward Scissorhands? We have to right that wrong. And so that's what I'm going to be doing for my pick. Edward Scissorhands, available on Disney+. Again, Will's pick is Gremlins on HBO Max and Peacock. So yeah, we're going to be discussing those next week for our 75th episode of this podcast. So
nice.
That's it. Thank you everybody for listening. You can reach us on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up the container story, you'll find links to our Facebook page, everything else, anything you need, the RSS feed, our SoundCloud page, all of that stuff. It's all within the container stories for each podcast episode. So open up any of the podcast container stories and you'll see all those links at the bottom. Next week, we are going to be doing Advocates of Great Entertainment, as I mentioned, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And then after that, we're going to be gone for like 4 weeks. We're not coming back until the first week of January. So we're closing out. We're doing our Christmas episode next week, and then we're going to be gone till next year. But we're going to end on a banger. We're going to end on an Advocates episode.
Oh yeah, it's going to be great.
It was our big celebration episode, so it'll be really fun. Thank you everybody for listening again. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.